Hello, fellow traders. 'Tis I, the Rumpled One, coming to you Friday, January the 3rd. The year's 2020. Let's talk trading. It's time for the weekly wrap up. Okay, so we know that as traders, we have to have risk management, money management on each and every trade. We cannot afford to lose any more on one particular trade than what we're saying we can afford to lose. So that's why we have our stop loss and position size placed accordingly. Now, fellow traders, you all know these videos are for educational purposes only, and that your results may differ from mine, and that trading's very risky. You can lose all your money. So that's the reason why, if you are seeking financial advice, investment advice, trading advice, you need to seek it from an accredited financial professional. That way, if you lose all your money, you know you got your advice from an accredited financial professional rather than some guy you heard on YouTube or read about on a trading forum on the internet. Okay, those of you just tuning in, the weekly gap filled this week. In fact, it filled the very first day, if I remember correctly. And you can see here for the week, dollar yen has really made a move. So if you shorted off of the previous week's low and you're still in that trade, you're up 129 pips. And on the yearly, you can see we're 70 pips below that yearly open. Sure hasn't taken long. Maybe one thing we could take a look at here, if you look at dollar yen and you put it on the monthly chart, you can see where dollar yen is. I believe this was, this was January of 2019. So you can see what kind of action we had this year. See here, we actually made a new low for the year. But the week, the month, the year, the day, right now, all in red. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red days in a row. And you can see that again right here. We broke out of the previous days. Actually, this is the first day of the month's low right here, which was just 1 day ago. And then this was the high and low of the week. You see we broke out of that. And here, if we look at the, put this on M5, why'd I do that? If we look at the weekly open, you can see how prices just kept falling. Once again, weekly open trade can be very strong because price has to range. And you can see here for the week, this is the monthly range, 102. Average is 302, so there's still some room to be made up there, right? On the daily, we're inside the monthly inside bar that happened 4 months ago, right there. Now, those of you just tuning in, I usually just show the dollar yen, but you can apply all of these to the other pairs. I just like to stick with one pair because I like to show that money can be made off of sticking with one pair, even though it did switch up every now and then. If something is out of whack, then you might want to trade. So for example, with dollar yen, the monthly range and the daily range has really been small. So I still trade it, but then I might also trade another pair or two. But usually you want to find a pair that moves and something that is reliable, sticks with the statistics, something that you can trade and make profit. So as far as range today, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pairs over 100. and the dollar yen clocking in at 79, which is really nice. So we broke out of the previous day's low here. Still in that trade, you're up 19 pips with the potential, if you nailed it, 37 pips. And you can see right here, we've got the yearly H1 lowest open right here. And you had a couple of opportunities to get back in that trade. There's the daily H1 highest open, the monthly D1 lowest open here. And as the year plays out, we'll have monthly, weekly, daily. But since we're in the same, we've got the monthly, yearly, weekly right now, or at least monthly, yearly is the same. Weekly is not. Okay, pivot point. And we hit the pivot already. It was just not even a full pip below the open. So once again, no bias there. Rat zone. Once again, green rats had opportunity to hit the rat zone. As you can see here, this was the low until we put in a newer low right here. Pivot, we already took out the pivot, we showed that. Here we go. So far this year, no missed pivots. And especially when the range is up, you can see how price doesn't like staying in between two lines. And as usual, price doesn't like staying in the wick zone. Oh, and that reminds me, there was a trader asking about the wick zone in HL5. And I realized there's a little programming change I can make to HL5, because if you're using that for wick zone, you have to set top and bottom to true. But what I could do is, if you say shade the wick zone, I could then also look for that to plot the wick zone, as opposed to if you say set top and bottom to true. Okay, here we go. On the Einstein line, you can see here, there was a couple of short opportunities, a couple of long opportunities. And as far as the ticks, you can see we've had some ranging there. Why did that just happen? I don't know. I accidentally hit the right mouse button, I guess. And notice here that we have penetrated through the weekly ATR zone. Range is 164, the average is 134. So above average. Daily average 41, which that tells you right there, there's really not much of a chance to trade the rat zone if your daily average is only 41. But today we had 79, almost twice the average. And for you squiggly people, let's see here. Well, we dropped below the EMA 5 on this day, and we also closed below the EMA 50. So I guess that would have indicated possible short. Here we closed below the SMA 200. So once again, there's a short, and this is indicating to be short the whole time. So that's how you squiggly line traders probably have been trading the dollar yen. And for those of you wondering, this is an old indicator in 2010, multi-pair slot machine for the moving averages, which you can use the 2017 dashboard to plot these. And the only difference is it won't have these little arrows. But, this was back when everybody seemed to want arrows, so I was trying to be accommodating and putting arrows in these indicators, but I pretty much got away from that. I don't even know if there's any, see, the dashboard doesn't do it. I don't know if there's any indicators I've written recently that in the past few years that have any of that. I guess you call it eye candy. Let's see. There was something I wanted to show. I can't remember what it was. Oh yeah, I think somebody was asking me about the H1 and the wick zone indicators. And maybe we'll dive into that a little bit more next week. But, we're starting a new year, and I already talked about one, or actually I talked about start. And what you need to do is you basically need to start. You don't have to start over, but find something that you need to start, whether it's making sure you always have your stop loss. But I know if you've been watching my videos for any time, you already started that, right? But there might be one other thing you might need to start that you haven't been doing, or you haven't been doing on a consistent basis. And maybe that's what you might just need to focus on. And maybe that might make the difference between profit and loss on some of your trades. But remember, once again, these videos for educational purposes only, and your results may differ from mine. But starting and finding that one thing that just might be the key difference. A lot of people talk about trading journals and writing down their trading plans and all those things, and maybe that's what you need to start. But chances are you probably have everything you need already at your disposal. You probably have plans, indicators, methods. You've got the computer, obviously. So you've got a trading account, you've got money in the account. So you've got everything that you need to be successful. So maybe you have to start one thing that will determine your success. Maybe you use squigglies, maybe you don't. Maybe you might want to start using a horizontal line when you see something like price dipping into these wick zones that, hey, you know what? Price hasn't dipped in those wick zones before. So when price dipped down into this wick zone right here, and then here, and you see it made an exit, and then it came back, and then you see when it came back, it exited that wick zone to the upside. Maybe that's an indication that I could have taken that trade and picked up a couple of pips. So maybe if you were trading short and you saw price pop out of that zone and come right back, maybe you moved your stop loss there and you locked in some huge profit. So maybe you just might have to start doing something simple as that. Because you see, fellow traders, you know by now that it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So let's make 2020 a profitable year. I hope you've had a profitable week this week. And I hope you have a nice, safe weekend and come back. So next week we can drain the banks.